Peace be upon you. This is Saeed Mirza from millionairereason.com, and in today's talk, I wanted to look at this claim made by the Muslims that all non-Muslims will go to hell, and that those people who follow the religion of Islam, they're the ones who will enter heaven. And the reason I wanted to make this video was if you've noticed a lot of Muslims, especially in their efforts, their dawah efforts, in which they are trying to bring people into the fold of Islam, they always make this claim that unless you recite the Shahada, which is the Muslim testification of faith, you are condemned to hell. And I wanted to look in the Qur'an, which is considered the basis of the religion of Islam, to see what the Qur'an has to say about this whole issue. Now, if you don't want to hear my rambling, you can just go and read the article on my website. I published it, and I put a link in the drop-down box below. And before we continue, I wanted to let you know that most of the content of this video is based on the work of Sam Gerrans, The Qur'an, A Complete Revelation, which you can download for free at Qur'anite.com, or you can access his translation in a mobile-friendly format or a tablet-friendly format on reader.Qur'anite.com. All the links are in the drop-down box below. So let's continue. So a common claim made by the Muslims is that unless a man converts or reverts to the religion of Islam, he will go to hell. Now, of course, the claim by members of a specific religion or sect that their group is the only one that will enter heaven is not unique to the Muslims. Christians and Jews claim likewise. Hence, we see the aggressive proselytization, which is getting people to convert to a specific religion. The efforts that are made, and in the Muslim terminology, this is called dawah, and in the Christian terminology, this is called missionary work. We see that both Christian missionaries or the religious leaders and Muslim clergy or religious leaders, sheikhs, imams, muftis, and even laymen, they are trying to convert people to the respective religion because they feel or they believe that it is their duty to save people from hellfire. And they are partly correct. Obviously, it is the duty of the believers to warn a society, but to get people to convert to a specific religion is not really what is being talked about in the final revelation of God, the Quran, and we shall look at the verses in question as well. So let's begin with the chapter 2, verses 109 to 112. And again, I encourage you to read these verses in their context on reader.Qur'anite.com. And if you have an allergy to Sam Gerrans' translation, there are other translations as well, which you can use. I would suggest Arbery, but then you can go ahead and choose your specific translator. You'll see that generally the translations, they are in agreement on this issue. And what's needed is that we look at the context and try to understand what's being talked about. So this is chapter 2, verses 109 to 112. Many among the doctors of the law wish to turn you back as atheists after your faith out of envy from their souls after the truth has become clear to them. But pardon and forbear until God brings his command. God is over all things powerful. And uphold the duty and render the purity, and what good you send ahead for your souls, you will find it with God. God sees what you do. And they say, none will enter the garden save such as hold to Judaism or are Christians. Those are their vain desires. Say thou, bring your evidence if you be truthful. Verily, whoso submits his face to God and is a doer of good, he has his reward with his Lord, and no fear will be upon them, nor will they grieve. So, leaving apart this specific thing that is talked about in the beginning, it says many among the doctors of the law, which is the clergy, the priests and the sheikhs and the muftis and the rabbis, is saying that many among them wish to turn you back as atheists after your faith. So this is something that we need to pay attention to, that these people who are acting to be so righteous and be, sort of the leaders of the religious communities, they themselves are atheists. This is what God is saying. If you read carefully, this is what it's saying, that they wish to turn you back as atheists. Because if you know anything about how the society works in general, the people in position, the people in power, they are steeped in hypocrisy, and they are actually mocking the masses. If you remember in the beginning of the Quran, in chapter 2, it talks about the false claimers of guidance, the al-kafirun, that they seek to deceive God and the believers, but they are only deceiving themselves. And among men are those who say we believe, but they do not really believe. And so this is the people, this is the sort of the leaders, the clergy members, or the elite class, who are misguiding people, and they know that. But anyway, leaving that aside, it says that the claim that they make, that none will enter the garden save such as hold to Judaism or are Christians, and this is a similar claim made by the Muslims, that unless you hold to the religion of Islam, you will not enter the garden. It says that these are their vain desires, and that you need to bring your evidence. And this is the evidence in the case of the religion of Islam. The evidence, the bringing your evidence, is the Qur'an, and which the believers are bringing forward, saying, look, this is what is being talked about in the book, the Qur'an, that this is not the reality of the case, the truth of the matter. The fact of the matter is that whoso submits his face to God and is a doer of good, he has his reward with his Lord, and no fear will be upon them, nor will they grieve. Now, this is not just one verse in the Quran that we can point to. There are other places too. We shall look at those as well. What I want to kind of show you is a general picture of what the Quran's criteria is for salvation. It is not subscription to a religion or a sect that will save us from the hellfire. So here is another verse in the Quran which negates the idea that subscription to a particular religion or sect is required in order to be guided. This is from the Qur'an Complete Revelation, chapter 2, verse 120. And never will the rabbinic Jews be pleased with thee, nor will the Christians, until thou follow their creed. Say thou, the guidance of God, that is guidance. And if thou follow their vain desires after the knowledge which has come to thee, thou wilt have against God neither ally nor helper. Now, what I want you to notice is that obviously, at the time of the Quranic revelation, these were the two major religions or major sects who were claiming to be guided and, claiming to be following the scripture of God. Now, obviously, the Quranic revelation has been, a lot of time has passed since then, and we have the coming forth of a new sect. The religion of Islam, they are behaving exactly how the Jews and the Christians behaved in the Quran. So when it's saying here that the rabbinic Jews will not be pleased with you, nor the Christians, now in the case of today, the followers of the religion of Islam will not be pleased with the believers unless they follow their creed, their religion, which I guess on a little bit of side note, the religion of Islam you will not find in the Quran, in the sense that the rituals that are in the religion of Islam, especially the whole Hajj issue, the pilgrimage, that is not detailed in the Quran. The Salat is not detailed in the Quran. The 5 pillars of the religion of Islam, they are not present in the Quran in the sense of these sort of rigid structures. And so what the Quran is interested in is getting us to fear God and to believe in God and the last day. The creation of a religion, that's a totally separate thing that was done. The religion of Islam takes certain terms from the Quran and twists it to mean something specific. And this is how the religion of Islam was grafted onto the Quran. It is not organically derived from the Quran. If you want more information on this, again, I suggest that you check out Brother Gerrans' work. And also, if you're interested, you can read my book, Within Our Reason, in which I detail this quite extensively about the religion of Islam and how its 5 pillars are not found in the Quran. This is kind of a side note. We're still trying to see if the claim of the Muslims that only those people who subscribe to religion of Islam will be saved or enter heaven, is that found in the Quran. And I've shown you 2 places in the Quran where that's not been the case. It's been to believe in God in the last day. Continuing on, this is a kind of a long passage that I think is important that we need to meditate on and ponder on, because it will dispel, again, the claims by the Muslims that they are the safe sect. This is from the Qur'an Complete Revelation, chapter 2, verses 130 through 140. And who is averse to the creed of Abraham? You remember this word creed? It was used earlier. verse 120, where it said that the rabbinic Jews will not be pleased with thee, nor will the Christians, until thou follow their creed. So that is their creed. But let's look at what the creed of Abraham was, to continue from chapter 2, verse 130. And who is averse to the creed of Abraham, save he who befools himself? And we chose him in the world, and in the hereafter he is among the righteous. When his Lord said to him, Submit thou, he said, I have submitted to the Lord of all creation. Now, just to kind of step aside here, you see clearly that there was no shahada being uttered or any sort of formal testification of faith. Obviously, at that time, Muhammad was not alive, so Abraham could not have said, there's no God but God, and Muhammad is messenger of God. But still, we see here, and this is actually one instance of two other instances where a personality, someone, converted to submission to God. This is what they did. They decided to submit to God. We have Queen Sheba in the story of Solomon, and also we have the sorcerers at the time of Moses. And if this is detailed in my book, in no instance in those was there like a formal testification of faith. They simply said, we submit. So here we have this is where God is teaching us what Abraham did when he submitted to God. God said to him, Submit thou. He said, I have submitted to the Lord of all creation. This is it. This was a personal communication, and a personal sort of, in Urdu it's called azam. It means to decide that this is the path I want to follow. The same did Abraham enjoin upon his sons, as did Jacob. O my sons, God has chosen the doctrine for you, so die not save when you are submitting. If you were witnesses when death was present with Jacob, when he said to his sons, What will you serve after me? They said, We will serve thy God and God of thy fathers Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac, one God, and to him are we submitting. That is a community which has passed away. It has what it earned, and you have what you earned, and you will not be questioned about what they did. And they say, Be such as hold to Judaism or Christians, you will be guided. So again, see, they're saying the same thing, that you need to hold to this religion of Islam, become a Muslim, you will be guided. Response is, Say thou, Nay, the creed of Abraham inclining to truth, and he was not of the idolaters. Now, this is very specific here, idolaters. He was not of the mushrikeen. Why? Because Abraham insisted that there was one God. In the case of the Christians, even though they claim to worship one God, in actuality they are worshiping three gods, in the three in one concept, the Trinity concept. In the case of Judaism, God talks about in the Qur'an that they took Ezra as the son of God. Obviously, Jews at this day and age, they deny this, but we have the Qur'an's testimony. So this is the idea behind mushrikeen, to ascribe partnership to God. But if you look in the Quran for this word mushrikeen, you will see it also being used for those who divide the monotheistic faith into sects. They split up into sects, each party exulting at what it has. So those are the idolaters. So God said, the creed of Abraham inclined to truth, and he was not of the idolaters. So do not split up your religion, the monotheistic faith, into sects, into religions, but follow that true faith. Don't divide yourself into sects. So this is why don't be an idolater. He was not an idolater, Abraham. He believed in one God and he submitted to him. That's really all there is to it. To continue, say, we believe in God and what has been sent down to us, and what was sent down to Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and the grandsons, and what was given to Moses and Jesus, and what was given to the prophets from their Lord. We make no division between any of them, and to him are we submitting. This is a very key point here. We do not make any division between any of these prophets. We do not exalt one prophet over the other. In the case of the Muslims, as you know, they are so involved in this praise of Muhammad, and blessings to Muhammad, and everything is Muhammad, 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 that they are losing sight that in the Quran it says that we do not make any division of them. We believe in all of them equally. They were all prophets and messengers. They were special men chosen by God for a specific purpose, and we believe in them, and we give each of them their due and equal respect. So this is what you need to try to understand what the Quran is talking about, because what the Muslims are doing, they're doing the complete opposite of what the Quran is talking about. They have divided themselves into sects by claiming that there is a specific religion of Islam that you need to enter, and even among the Muslims there is obviously the sects of the Sunnis and Shias, and the Badailwis, and the Ahmadis, and all these other people as well. So this is their sects which they have divided, and each party is claiming that the other party is misguided. So to continue, then if they believe in the like of that in which you believe, they have been guided. But if they turn away, they are only in schism, and God will suffice thee against them, and He is the hearing, the knowing. The immersion of God, and who is better than God to immerse, and Him are we serving. Say thou, dispute you with us concerning God, when He is our Lord and your Lord, and we have our works, and you have your works, and to Him are we sincere. If you say that Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and the grandsons were such as hold to Judaism or Christians, say thou, know you better, or does God? And who is more unjust than he who conceals a witness he has from God, and God is not unmindful of what you do? Again, we have the same question, that are you claiming that Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and all these prophets and messengers, they were holding to Judaism or Christians? They were not, obviously. Similarly, they were not holding to a religion of Islam. They were Muslims in the sense of the Arabic. The general term for the word Muslim means surrender, one who surrenders. That's what the word means. So they were the ones who were surrendering to God. This is not some specific group or religion that you need to be a follower of. They were simply submitting to God. They were submitting to God, surrendering to God, and worshiping God, and serving Him and obeying His commandments. This is it. Perhaps unsurprisingly, God has already laid down the criteria for those who are successful in the beginning of the Quran. Now, if the claim of the Muslims that is that unless you convert to this religion of Islam, you will not be successful, you will be the losers, then already we have the criteria for those who are successful in the Quran. This is in the beginning, and this is why it's so surprising that those people who claim to be ulamas and sheikhs and sort of the learned folks of the religion of Islam, they can't get this point, or maybe they know this already, but because it's not helpful to them. And like I said, God talks about the clergy members, the doctors of the law, wishing to make men atheists. That's their goal. So maybe the people who are the sheikhs and the muftis and all these celebrity folks who are actually doing dawah and calling men to God, they're really not calling men to God. What they're doing is trying to divert them, and they're atheists. God knows best what is in their hearts. But it is very surprising that they don't know that if they claim to be such masters of the Quran and the Sunnah and all this, that they don't know that right in the beginning of the Quran, God gives us the successful criteria. And this criteria is not that you should submit to religion of Islam. It is very clear what is considered, who is considered to be successful. And this is from the Quran and Complete Revelation, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. Alif Lam Mim. That is the writ about which there is no doubt, a guidance to those of prudent fear. Muttaqeen is the Arabic word. Those who fear God, you could put it this way. Those who believe in the unseen and uphold the duty, and of what we have provided them they spend. And those who believe in what was sent down to thee, and what was sent down before thee, and of the hereafter they are certain. Those are upon guidance from their Lord, and it is they who are the successful. Now, I just wanted to point out that obviously in your daily life you meet a lot of Muslims, you meet a lot of Christians, you meet a lot of Jews, you do meet atheists as well, but the generality of mankind is usually, subscribes to these religions or Hinduism. Um, in the religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, uh, the emphasis is on the hereafter, right? The day of judgment. But the most people you will meet, they don't really believe in the last day. Let's be honest. They say they believe, but they don't really believe. So the accumulation of wealth, this is kind of a worldly goal. This is a worldly desire. But if you actually believed in the last day, then the doing of good deeds, spending of this wealth would be your priority, not accumulating it. So what I'm trying to say is that the criteria in the Quran is very specific. It's very clear. It says those who believe in the unseen, so they believe in God and the angels, and this knowledge of the hour. They believe in all that, and they uphold the duty. Now, a lot of translators obviously use this word and say the word salat is not duty; it's prayer. Fine, it's prayer, uphold the prayer. Still, it's the upholding of the remembrance of God that is also part of the duty. So even if you translate in that sense, it says, and of what we have provided them, they spend. So spending, this is one of the things that is not really talked about in the religion of Islam or any other religion, because obviously men don't want to spend their wealth in charity and the way of God. They want to spend their wealth in their own vain desires, in the pursuit of pleasure. That's the reality of it. But here you have the criteria that they spend of what God has provided them, and they believe in what is sent down to Muhammad and what was sent down before Muhammad, and of the hereafter they are certain. These are upon guidance from their Lord, and it is they who are the successful. So it's not religion or that's going to be the criteria whether you're successful or not. It's whether you believe in this criteria that God has given in the beginning of the Quran. Now, coming back to the issue I raised about dawah, which is calling men to God, which is something that the religion of Islam is very involved with, and is considerably gained a lot of traction, especially online, where you have different people, laymen or sheikhs, who are aggressively harassing men and getting them to convert to this religion of Islam. I just want to say that in the context of the Quran, yes, believers in God in the last day, it is their duty to warn their relatives, to warn their close friends, and to warn the generality of mankind of the last day. This is the duty, to warn of the last day. It is not to convert them to a specific way of thinking or religion or sect or whatever. But we need to understand that God is the one who guides, and it is not men who guide. And what that means is that those who are looking for guidance, they will find it. As it said in the Quran, it says, "Those who strive for those who strive for us, we shall assuredly guide them to our ways." So it is upon God to guide, and you can be a means for God to guide, but it's not something that you can guide someone. And those who are looking sincerely for information, there is on the internet. That information is available. There really is no excuse in this day and age for someone, unless you're living in the Amazonian forest, in a tribe or something. You have access to all the knowledge that has been accumulated, and obviously God's revelation is available in its format. And a lot of work has been done. The Quran has been translated in many different languages. Actually, I think all the languages that are spoken, all the major languages that are spoken. So there really is no excuse for someone to say, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't know." So anyway, also it is clear from the reading of the Quran that disbelief has become binding upon most people. In this day and age, as it says in the Quran, it says that those who are indifferent to warning, or those who do not believe, allazina kafaru, it is the same to them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. God has put a seal on their hearts. So we need to understand that reality as well. So it's not that aggressively trying to push something on someone who obviously has heard it one time or has already looked into it or doesn't care to look into it is going to somehow magically get them to change their mindset, because God has already put a seal on their hearts, or he has led them astray. So in that regard, I wanted to present to you two passages from the Quran, and that'll wrap up this talk. This is chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. Those who ignore warning, it is the same to them whether thou hast warned them or thou hast not warned them. They do not believe. God has sealed their hearts, and over their hearing and over their sight is a covering, and they have a great punishment. And this is from chapter 22, verses 77 and 78. O you who heed warning, be lowly and submit and serve your Lord, and do good that you might be successful. And strive for God with the striving due him. He has chosen you, and has not placed upon you in doctrine any distress, the creed of your father Abraham. He named you those submitting before, and in this, that the messenger might be a witness to you, and that you might be witnesses to men. So uphold the duty, and render the purity, and hold fast to God. He is your protector. Then excellent is the protector, and excellent is the helper. So that concludes my talk on this claim by the Muslims that unless you convert or revert to the religion of Islam, you will enter into hell. As we have seen from the Qur'an, which is the foundational basis of the religion of Islam, this text nowhere says that this requirement to convert to any religion is what will save anyone from hellfire. The criteria in the Quran is simple and straightforward. Those who believe in God in the last day and do good deeds, they shall have no fear, nor shall they regret. And this is what the Quran's own evidence is, which is contrary to religion of Islam. And it is what it is. I presented to you the evidence from the Quran, and I hope this was of some use to you. God willing, until next time.